Hi everyone, I'd like to welcome you to the second part of this video. Second part of this video, I'm going to talk with another one of my fellow movie lovers, and we're going to discuss how we feel about the Oscars and what's going to be a big contender.
How's everybody doing? So we're going to talk about our picks for Oscars 2014, and I think the way we should do it is start from the least likely to win and move it up to go up to the ones who will actually win. So of the 8 choices, I have to say that I think Selma is probably the worst one of the bunch.
I'd have to agree with you there. It's got a lot of controversy about whether it's true or not, whether the facts are right or wrong. Also, the LBJ thing is kind of pushing people away. It also doesn't have a lot of nominations in other categories. I would have to say it's going to have a struggle if it really wants to win.
Exactly. No one wants to vote for a racist movie that's also fictionalized and makes probably one of our well-known presidents into a complete a-hole. So what would be next? What would be number 7?
I would have to say I would put it between Whiplash or American Sniper.
I'd have to give it to Whiplash, although Whiplash was great in terms of the supporting actor J.K. Simmons. The story is oftentimes difficult to relate to by people who are not in the music business. Anybody who has done fairly well in life may not understand the drive at all costs to the point that they're willing to kill themselves in order to become the best at something they may naturally be gifted at. So,
I agree. I definitely have to agree. It connects with certain people, but I definitely think that J.K. Simmons will win for Best Supporting Actor in that category.
All right, so move up to number 6.
At that point, it starts to become murky. We have Imitation Game, possibly at 6.
I would agree. Imitation Game, although it is a very moving story about the world's first computer and the breaking of the infamous Enigma code by the Germans, the movie itself is a bit lackluster. At times it drags on. The characters are a bit hard to relate to. Although Cumberbatch does a very good performance, he is a very difficult person to like. Someone whose on-screen presence sometimes is more of a deterrent to empathizing him rather than someone you want to cheer for and hope that he actually succeeds.
I'd have to agree with that there. It's got an interesting story, but I don't know if it has enough to get the Best Picture nomination. I mean, win. I think that Turning does he does a great job as playing Turning. As far as that concerned, he should be nominated and should be a close race for Best Actor. But as for the movie, I don't know if it could win. I don't think it's got it.
All right, so number 5, I would actually put The Grand Budapest Hotel. The reason you disagree?
I disagree. I definitely think Theory of Everything. Budapest won at the Golden Globes. I think that Theory would be next. I think that it's got great acting and it's got fantastic design, sound and music, but as far as movie is concerned, I don't know if it has what it takes to do the overall Best Picture nom. I think it's got a great acting by Eddie Redmayne, and I think he'll win for Best Actor. It's going to be very close, but I don't think it's got what it has to take to win.
See, that's where I disagree. I think Theory of Everything has, and forget the repetition of the word, has everything that the Academy usually goes for. It is a very moving story. It is a story that ends where it begins, essentially at a man who accomplishes a great thing and is honored for his great mind. It brings together family. It shows a story of a person who can overcome a great personal difficulty and still create a life that he is proud of and that his family is proud of. And it shows you what a person can do if they set their mind to their goals. So I think that philosophy, that kind of inspirational story is something the Academy likes to see. So I'd actually move Theory of Everything probably up to the top 3. I think The Grand Budapest Hotel, although it is quirky and it is fun to look at, it is not ultimately a movie that's going to inspire people. And when the Academy picks movies, I feel like they tend to go for movies that are going to inspire us rather than movies that are just going to entertain us. Even if you look at the past winners, and you take, for example, Slumdog Millionaire, a movie that is very light and fictitious, and it is very, very lighthearted, or I should say very, very entertaining. The story behind it, the story of love, that love will conquer, regardless of the adversity around the person who loves, is a very moving story. It is an inspirational story, and that's what ultimately propels it to be an Oscar Best Picture. So, Grand Budapest, I think, because it's quirky, is entertaining, but it doesn't have the gravitas that the Academy goes for in terms of their Best Picture wins.
I disagree. I think that Budapest it has a good shot. It's got a Golden Globe behind it. It's got a really strong director. It's been getting a lot of praise lately. I definitely think it's got a good chance of winning. But for my top three, I'd have to say my third spot for my top three.
We haven't gone to number 4 yet. So
well, that is my number 4. So.
Okay. So.
What would your number 4 be?
So at number 4, I would actually put in American Sniper. I think that the controversy around the film pulls it off the top 3. I think that the Academy, when looking at a film, likes a film that deals with serious topics and shows a very personal story of what a person deals with in order to have a good life. I think the story of adversity and of love overcoming that adversity is a very moving story. But I think because of the controversy around the American Sniper, about the story, about what he actually did, it pulls it off the top 3. So it's unfortunate because it is a moving story, and looking at its box office success, it proves that it is a story that is connected with many, many people, probably millions of people. But I think ultimately the Academy wants something less controversial but equally as inspirational to be its Best Picture. So I would put American Sniper as number 4.
So your top 3, what would you put in your third spot then?
The third spot I think would go to Birdman. I think that Birdman is a comedy, but it also is a story that talks about redefining oneself, and as Emma Stone put it in her most critical scene, trying to be relevant in a world where everyone is completely irrelevant is what the Academy wants to see. It is ultimately a story of redemption, because the Birdman ultimately finds his new life as a Broadway actor. So that kind of story, again, is what inspires the Academy. If you go back just a couple of years, you look at The Artist, again, it was a very similar story. You had the story of a man who was well known in the silent pictures, dealing with the fall of the silent picture and struggling to redefine himself, and ultimately was able to redefine himself as a man who danced in pictures. And so his new life started. And I think Birdman is a very similar story in that respect, in that it is a story of redemption, someone who loses their life and somehow finds it again with a different take on their views, a different take in their life.
Although I do agree with you, it was a great film, I still think it's only top 4, not top 3. I think it's got a long shot. It has a lot of nominations, but it's also got not that great of box office sales. Box office sales do mean some form of thing every other year. It alternates between 100,000 to 50,000 for the Best Picture winner. Birdman does not break the $100,000 range, and that would be the next one.
You mean the $100 million?
$100 million.
Most of these films made
yes.
100,000 at the box office, or at least I would hope.
So for my third spot, I would actually put it to American Sniper. I think because of the trend of the 100 million to the 50 million, because this movie has over 100 million, I would definitely think that has a good shot at winning this year. Since last year's was an art house, this year would be the bigger box office. It's got a great storyline. I really think that Bradley Cooper is amazing in it. I think that, yes, there is controversy about it and being very conservative, but I do think that it's a great shot. It's kind of the people's choice, the Rocky of the Oscars this year. I would definitely say it's what the people want to see win. Whether the Academy agrees with that or not, we'll see.
So then what leaves you at number 2 then?
My top 2, my alternate for winner would be the runner-up. I would have Grand Budapest as my runner-up. I think because of its Oscar Golden Globe win, and because of such a strong director and such a strong production company, and they're pushing very hard for this movie, I definitely think it's going to be a close race between that and my number 1.
See, and that's where I would put Boyhood as my number 2, because even though it is a film that has done something revolutionary in that it has recorded someone's life, essentially documented someone's life over the past 12 years. You've seen a child grow up through 12 years, through various turmoils in his life and various points in his life. Ultimately, the story does not really inspire more than it just documents. And I think that the Academy, when looking at films, it wants something that's going to transcend the human experience, and you don't want just something as a documentary. We've never had a documentary win Best Picture, and I think it is for that reason, because documentaries, although they have a realistic view and they sometimes chronicle something that is very important in our lives, they sometimes do not provide that inspiration that other films have provided. So it's unfortunate, but I think Boyhood, as revolutionary as it was in the fact that it was able to document someone's life over 12 years, will fall victim to a much more inspirational story.
So, what would your best pick for the Oscars be? What do you think is going to win this year?
I think I would give it to Theory of Everything. I think that movie, like I said, inspires people to overcome their personal adversity, their personal obstacles, and become something grand and universal. So I think it also speaks to the fact that relationships change, and although relationships change in sometimes very sad fashions, they can be reconstructed to become something more powerful. In that, again, talking about transcendence, again, all the past motion picture winners that have won Best Picture in the Academy are movies that talk about transcending the human experience. If we look at last year's winner, 12 Years a Slave, yes, it was a story that chronicled a man's journey as he was a free man into becoming a slave to becoming free again. But that experience, his ability to channel the love for his family, to keep his calm and to find a way forward through a seemingly impossible situation, is what inspired it and made it inspirational enough to give the Academy the vote, or give the Academy the glimmer inside to give it the win for Best Picture. And I think Theory of Everything very much has that same kind of thing.
I definitely disagree. I think that Boyhood is the one to beat this year. I think it's got a great story. I think it's well written, well directed, and I think it's like the art house picture that never really won. It's the kind of film that everyone wants to see because it's something different. I think that different is this year's big thing. I think that it's going to break the mold of how we look at movies, especially seeing that it was used the same actors for 12 years over a period of time. I really thought it was interesting. I thought it connected with me on a personal level. I thought it was really well done, and I think it has a really good shot at winning. It's got a lot of strong actors in it and a lot of strong support behind it, so that's my pick for this year's Oscars.
So we'll see.
Tune in next week. Comment below if you have any comments about movies you'd like me to review. I'm going to review a movie once a week. I'll probably post it on Thursday or Friday every week, and hopefully you guys like the first episode. Comment below with any ideas or suggestions. Also comment about any movies you'd like to see me review.